All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Pastor Mo Edwards of Liberating Truth Church, and you've tuned into a walk through the Bible. On a walk through the Bible, we are endeavoring to teach through the entire Bible from Genesis 1 and 1 to Revelation 22 and 21. We have finished the book of Genesis, and we are now also done with Exodus chapters 1 through 15. And today we are exploring chapters 16 through 18. And how it works is I give you the scriptures that we are going to study the following day. You read them, you study them, and we summarize them on Monday through Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm running a little late on today, but in general, we get started at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at ltcdetroit.org. ltcdetroit.org. You can find the links to all of my Facebook pages and YouTube page. You can go to the YouTube page or walk through the Bible, and you can watch any of the videos in the archives we already have. Again, we have the entire book of Genesis and Exodus chapters 1 through 15. And today we're doing Exodus chapters 16 through 18. And so let's get right to it. The children of Israel have been delivered out of Egypt, and they have gone through the wilderness of sin, and they are just outside of the Red Sea. And let's catch up with them in chapter 16. And I'm going to be sharing my screen. And sometimes I'm not going to share it when I need to just breeze through a chapter. So let's move this over a little bit. All right. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. Remember, Horeb and Sinai are synonymous for the mountain of God, Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb. On the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So remember, the first month is the month Abib that they established on the Hebrew calendar, the day that they were delivered out of the land of Egypt. And now they are in the second month, okay? So they've established the Passover in the first month. They're now on to their second month, being delivered from the land of Egypt. Let's now read verses 2 and 3. Verses 2 and 3. All right, I'm excited about this teaching today. And the whole congregation of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And remember, the wilderness, let's not just look at it as a dry place, but it is a uninhabited place. People don't settle there or live there. You can't sow and reap in the wilderness. So God has taken them into the wilderness to test them or to prove them. All right, verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt. In other words, you didn't have to bring us out here to kill us. You could have left us in Egypt. When we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full, for ye have brought us forth into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. And so, as we discussed in chapter 14, the children of Israel had gotten comfortable with being slaves in Egypt. So being free took them out of their comfort zone. I know it sounds crazy, but this is a mental sickness that even many people have today. They are people in prison that have been there so long that they don't want to come out here in what we call the free world. Verse 4, then said the Lord unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread. Underline that, bread from heaven for you. We will learn that Jesus is the bread from heaven. In John 6, I believe it is, in the New Testament. And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day. So he's given instructions, a certain rate every day, that I may prove them or test them whether they will walk in my law or no. So, in other words, before I give them the 10 commandments and the other 600 plus commandments, let me see if they will just follow some simple commands first. Verses 5 and 6. And it shall come to pass that on the sixth day they shall prepare that which they bring in. Okay, pay attention to the sixth day. And it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. So on the sixth day, they're going to gather twice as much. There's going to be a reason behind it. And Moses and Aaron said unto the children of Israel at even or evening, then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out of the land of Egypt. As if they're not out already. And should understand that they're out already. And so, after seeing all of the wonders that God did in Egypt, God still needs to give them signs to prove he is with them and that their deliverance is real. Why does God have to keep reminding us he's with us and we're secure with him? Why aren't our past experiences with God enough? Come on. We do our loved ones the same way sometimes, our spouses especially. Like nothing's ever good enough for us. People still have to prove their loyalty, their love. Come on. How much does it take? Verse 7, and in the morning then you shall see the glory of the Lord, for that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we that ye murmur against us? The glory of the Lord is a show of his greatness to make it plain. That's what the glory of the Lord is, his greatness, his splendor, his pomp. When he reveals his glory, he does it in such a way that you know he is great. Okay? He comes in the brightness of his glory. He shines. Come on. You think we shining. You ain't seen God shine yet. And Moses says to them, you're murmuring against us, but you're God's people and not ours. And this is God's business, not ours. So don't shoot the messenger. Come on now. Verses 8 through 12. Verses 8 through 12. And Moses said, this shall be when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full. For that the Lord heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against God, because this is God's business, and you are his people, and he's your God. We're just the messengers. And Moses spake unto Aaron, say unto the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it shall come to pass and it came to pass as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. So again, he has to continuously show them that he is the Lord their God and they are his people. Verses 13 through 15. Verses 13 through 15. And it came to pass at even that quails came up. I did my research on quails. To be honest, we don't know exactly what type of meat that was. At least according to my research. Some of you may know something different or have some more detailed research and facts and truth concerning quails. But they came up and covered the camp. And in the morning, the dew lay round about the host, or the tribes, or the armies of the Lord, the people of God. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. So go and study what hoarfrost is. So after the dew was gone up, there appeared this small round thing. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to the other, it is manna, for they wist not what it was. They didn't know what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. All right? So they didn't know what it was, so they called it manna. But Moses says, this is the bread from heaven that the Lord has given you to eat. They didn't know what it was, so they just made up a name for it. And that's what we do, y'all. We don't do no research. We just make up stuff. This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. Verse 16, gather it, every man according to his eating. So according to your appetite and what is um, a good portion, a reasonable portion for a person, an omer for every man. Go research what an omer is. According to the number of your persons, take ye every man for them which are in his tents. So God gives them instructions on how to partake of the bread. Let's see if they follow these directions. Verses 17 through 20. Verses 17 through 20. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over. So, no matter how much you gathered, you didn't have no extra. And he that gathered little had no lack. They gather every man according to his eating. And Moses said, let no man leave of it till morning. So eat it all before the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses. But some of them left it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was wroth or angry with them. We're talking about the struggles in deliverance and leading a stiff-necked people. These people have been delivered from over 400 years of bondage, and they come out into the wilderness free under the leadership of Moses, under the covering of God, the grace of God, the power of God, the mercy of God, the provision of God, and just give Moses literal hell. The term chiding is the term harass. They are harassing Moses. So isn't it like man to start off obeying God, but in time they start falling off? Remember, in the beginning they gathered as they were supposed to, but now they done got hard-headed already. Verses 21 through 28. 21 through 28. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating, and when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass on the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Now let's go back and look real quick and see actually what did God say to gather twice as much? Verse 4 says, Then the Lord said unto Moses, I will rain bread from heaven for you. Okay. Verse 5 says, On the sixth day, um, it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Okay. All right. So let's go down to where do we stop? And so, and it came to pass on the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Let's go down to verse 28, we said. All right. And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that which ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, and as Moses bade, and it did not stink. Okay? Because now God is preserving it, because now he's giving instructions to lay it up until the morning. Neither was there any worm therein. Okay? See, when you're obedient, God will preserve. And Moses says, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. Okay, so he's not going to allow it uh, um, to be manifested. He's not going to give it to him on the Sabbath. So you need to store up the day before. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. Okay? And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the seventh day to gather, and they found none. So they just still hard-headed. We'll see later why they are called a stiff-necked people and a covenant-breaking people. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? Man, how long will y'all be hard-headed? How long is it going to be before y'all do right? Why is it that God's people have a problem with following God's word, following God's laws. We are now, my brothers and sisters, seeing the effects of sin. Adam and Eve didn't follow God's simple commandments, not to eat of the knowledge of the eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so now the effects of sin is man's struggle to follow God's simple directions. Man is struggling because of sin. They're struggling just to keep God's simple directions. How in the world will they be able to follow all of the laws God will give them through Moses in the future? Come on, y'all. This is revealing something right here. Let me stop, because this is even revealing it even more. When it comes to keeping the law without the Spirit's guidance and help. Are y'all seeing it? The effects of sin won't allow man to just follow simple directions. This will preach right here, and this will help in our teaching to see why the law was weak through the flesh, why you can't be justified by the law. Because man can't keep it. Just these simple directions. So imagine all that's going to come in the law. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but over 600 commandments, the 10 commandments plus another 600 laws and commandments within the totality of the law. I believe it's 613. How are they going to keep, how can they possibly keep all of God's laws when they can't even follow these simple directions? Verses 29 and 30. And I'll just read it from here. See, for the Lord hath given you the Sabbath. Therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. Why are you going out on the 7th day and I'm giving you bread for 2 days? Are y'all being greedy? Have y'all eaten it all? Are you just being hard-headed, rebellious? So the people rested on the 7th day. In Genesis chapter 2, we see that God rested or ceased from his creation work on the 7th day. And now we see God calling the 7th day a holy Sabbath that is consecrated, set apart for them to rest. According to verse 5, they would have gathered twice as much on the 6th day so they can rest on the 7th day. All right? Verses 31 through 36. 31 through 36. And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna. They called the bread manna. And it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. So they had some sweet bread. And Moses said, this is the thing which the Lord commandeth. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that ye may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. So this bread is some miracle bread, because it's going to stay without mold throughout the generations, And Moses said unto Aaron, take a pot and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations. Verse 34, and the Lord commanded Moses, as the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years. So they probably had diabetes. No, I'm just kidding. It's sweet bread. So, all right. So until they came to a land inhabited. So they're in the wilderness, but they're going to come to a land that is inhabited. Remember, don't look at the wilderness as just being a dry place. That's what the first thing we say. It's an uninhabited land, but they're going to eventually go into a inhabited land. They did eat manna until they came into the borders of the land of Canaan. So Canaan is a inhabited land, not an uninhabited land. People actually live in Canaan. They sow, they reap. You can't live and sow and reap in the wilderness. It was a place where God fed them there and tested them, proved them. Some ask, why did he take them in the wilderness? Why do they have to go through the wilderness to be tested? Now, an omer is the 10th part of an ephah. Go research that. All right? So in verse 33, Moses instructs Aaron to take a pot and put an omer full of manna in it and lay it up before the Lord. Verse 34 says, Aaron laid it up before the testimony. Many will ask, what is the testimony? Many scholars say it's speaking of Aaron laying it up until he was able to put it in the ark of the testimony, which we see being constructed in Exodus chapter 25. Okay, so we're not there yet, just a few more chapters. And Hebrews 9 talks about what was inside of the ark of the testimony, which was the manna, Aaron's rod, and the tablets. All right, let's go over to chapter 17 and read verses 1 and 2. I am in BibleGateway.com, so I'll usually keep this tab open when I'm studying and when I'm teaching so you can see it. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of the Lord and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. What they going to say about this now? Wherefore the people did chide or harass Moses and said, give us water that we may drink. Man. And Moses said unto them, why chide or harass me or argue with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? Why are you still tempting God? You already know how you feel about your murmuring and your harassment. So now Moses lets them know that they're tempting the Lord because the Lord has provided thus far. So why are you still chiding or harassing me? Didn't I tell you before that this is the Lord's business? This is his business. I'm just the messenger. But let us not forget, God is testing the children of Israel right now, okay? Like he said he would. So, verses 3 and 4. And the people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses and said, wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? You see how they're tempting him and God. Like, come on now. Hasn't God continued to come through thus far? Y'all just some harassing, complaining, irritating people. Let's just call it what it is. And Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, what should I do with this people? Your people, okay? They are almost ready to stone me over this. What a position to be in between God and his people, and you're getting blamed for what God is doing to them. Sometimes when you're the closest person to people, you're the one to catch it, right? Usually it has nothing to do with you, but because you're the one there, you catch it. Verse 5 and 6. And the Lord said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, take it in thy hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock of Horeb. So there must have been a rock at the bottom of the mountain, or a piece of the mountain, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it. Man, God is bad, ain't he? That the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. Now we know later on, Moses is going to get in trouble for smiting the rock instead of speaking to it. Did God allow Moses to do this to establish some respect amongst his people and to show them that he's working through them, to have him smite a rock in front of them and see the water come out of it so they'll stop harassing him? Oh my God. Verse 7, and he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah because of the chiding or harassing or murmuring, arguing of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? That's a crazy question, right? Is the Lord among us or not? Would you even be out of Egypt if he wasn't among you? Come on now. You've been there over 400 years. You saw his wonders. Remember in Genesis, we established that people name certain places based on their experience in that place. So he named the place where they were Massa and Meribah because of the children of Israel and their chiding. People also name their children based on their experience. Okay. The audacity of them to ask the Lord, is the Lord among us, after all the Lord has done amongst them. Verse 8, then came Amalek and fought with Israel and Rephidim. So maybe y'all need to be stirred up a little bit with some war and see how much murmuring you do when you got to go to war. Now the children of Israel have experienced their first war after being delivered out of the land of Egypt. They're getting ready to experience their first war. And verse 9 says, and Moses said unto Joshua, choose out men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So now Joshua is introduced as the captain of his army, it looks like. And we see that although Israel is out of Egypt, out of bondage, this rod still has a purpose in Moses' hand. Verse 10, so Joshua did as Moses said and fought with Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Now then God said he would be up there too. We also see Hur being introduced, another servant or minister of Moses. Verse 11, and it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed, and when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. So then I would be asking the question, Moses, why are you letting your hands down? Keep them up, man. Verse 12, but Moses' hands were heavy. Come on. The leader gets weak, man, gets tired. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands. Come on now. Every leader needs help, needs support, somebody on their side. And he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the other side. The one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So they was with this brother, man. The text doesn't explain why Moses needed to hold his hands up for Israel to prevail in war. And we don't see God giving him an instruction to. But he did it, and they prevailed when he held his hands up. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Now, did Joshua do it by himself? No, but it's accredited to him because he was the leader of the army. Verse 14 through 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book. So this is the first mention of someone being instructed to write something in a book. Let's go make sure that I'm correct on that. Am I able to? Let's see, I went to the wrong one. All right, let's see if I'm correct on that. This is blueletterbible.org. You can research terms here. The first mention of a book is this is the book of the generations of Adam. So this was a written document of the lineage of Adam, Genesis 5 and 1. Then we come down to Exodus chapter 17 and 14, where we are. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book. All right, let me get back over to, sorry about that. And rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. For he said, because the Lord have sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So Amalek will continuously be an enemy of the Lord. And so let's go really quick and see what this term Jehovah Nissi means. And it says, Jehovah is my banner. The name given by Moses to the altar, which he built in the commemoration of the discomfiture of the Amalekites. And so I've heard people say that Jehovah Nissi means God is mighty in battle. I believe it is. But anyway, Jehovah is my banner. All right, let's go into chapter 18. And we're going to finish up here in chapter 18. I'm letting y'all see my notes. Let me looking at my notes, man. All right. Chapter 18. And let's see here. We are going to read chapter 18, verses 1 and 2. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, and that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt, then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he sent her back and her 2 sons, of which the name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a strange land. So let's remember, different places, as I just said, were given names based on man's experiences in that place, and names were given to children based on the experiences in that place as well. Verses 4 and 6. And the name of the other was Eleazar. For the God of my father said he was mine help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and with his wife and Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped at the Mount of God. Remember, the Mount of God can be called Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. Verse 6 and 7. Verse 6 and 7. And he said unto Moses, I, thy father-in-law Jethro, am come unto thee, and thy wife with her 2 sons with her. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and did obeisance and kissed him. And they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. Remember, we talked about obeisance or worship is to bow down. Okay, so Moses bowed down in reverence to his father-in-law and kissed him. Okay, verses 8 and 9. Verses 8 and 9. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done unto Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness which the Lord had done unto Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. Now, how is Jethro rejoicing concerning Israel's deliverance? But Israel's response to their deliverance is to murmur and harass Moses. Well, one thing that we can say is after they were delivered, they had to trust God for food and for water. So sometimes there are still struggles in your deliverance. Come on now. That'll preach right there, like the preacher say. There are still struggles in your deliverance. Verses 10 and 11. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who have delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who have delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. For in the thing wherein they dwelt proudly, he was above them. So Israel being delivered out of the hands of the Egyptians, out of the hand of the powerful and proud Egyptians, I should say, caused Jethro to believe in the one true God and that the Lord is greater than all gods. Remember, I told you all that not only will the Egyptians and Israel learn how powerful God is, but other nations will hear about the mighty works that God did in Egypt. Verse 12, and Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. So we see Jethro, who is a priest of Midian, offering a sacrifice unto the one true God. What I learned recently is the Midianites were descendants of Abraham, but were not considered a part of God's covenant people because God's covenant people came through Isaac. Okay? Verse 13 through 15. Verse 13 through 15. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge or to govern the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning until the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, "What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou alone? And all the people stand by thee from morning unto even or evening." And Moses said unto his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God." So before, let me say it this way. So when we can see now that Moses is the mediator between God and the children of Israel, because the people came to him to inquire of God instead of inquiring of God and going to God for themselves. So verse 16 says, when they have a matter, they come to me, and I judge, I govern, I make decisions between one and another, and I do make them to know the statutes of God and his laws. And so before the Ten Commandments and what many call the law of Moses, God has statutes and laws that govern his people that Moses knew. Okay? Now, statutes, ordinances and laws is best explained this way. Statutes and ordinances are things that are prescribed. They are laws and rules, but they are a thing prescribed, and a law is the rule or the order. So watch this. This is the best way that I can explain it. When you look at the Passover, that was a statute or ordinance. It was a thing prescribed. So a thing prescribed has a prescription or elements you need to follow. So sacrificing a certain animal on a certain day, eating a certain thing, no leavened bread. That is a prescription, something prescribed. Okay? So look at it this way. Baking a cake and the directions to baking a cake is the thing prescribed, right? You got to add milk, you got to add eggs and sugars, okay? The law is you can't eat this cake until 10 o'clock. Okay? So there's a thing prescribed, and then there's a direct law. So thou shalt not kill is a direct law. Let's say the sacrifice that you have to give of Thanksgiving. That's in the law, but it's a thing prescribed. It's a statute, an ordinance. Okay. We say that there are two ordinances in the church: baptism and the Lord's Supper. Well, there are elements there are things you have to follow to do those things. Okay? So I hope I explained that in the best way that I could. I hope you understand it. So verses 17 and 18 says, and Moses, his father-in-law, said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good, man. Thou wilt surely wear away. You're going to be worn out. But thou and this people that is with thee for this thing, it says both thou and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it by yourself, man. Listen to your father-in-law. Now we have to ask the question, was it okay for Jethro to give Moses advice outside of the instructions of God? Who was he to tell Moses he can't do what God called him to do alone? We also have to look at the fact that he had he had Aaron, he had Hur, he had Joshua, Miriam. So was he really by himself? Okay. All right. He says, hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel. Okay. As a father-in-law, or maybe sent by God, or being used by God. Okay. And God shall be with thee. So you're speaking on behalf of God, telling him that God is going to be with him. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes before God. Hearken to my voice. All right, now, Jethro. Verse 20, and thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws. Okay, what is an ordinance? A thing prescribed, and laws, direct commands, and shall show them the way wherein they must walk and the work that they must do. So is this saying what the purpose, one of the purposes of the law is? To show them the way they must walk and the work that they must do? Write that down now. Now this becomes true. This becomes true in the next few chapters because God is going to give Moses laws and statutes. The Ten Commandments and other laws and statutes and commandments in the future. So Jethro is speaking truth. So is God speaking through Jethro now? Is God using Jethro now because he confessed the Lord is above all other gods? Has Jethro converted? All right. Verses 21 through 23. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, because they're getting ready to be in leadership. So they can't be covetous. And place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, rulers of tens, based on their capability to lead. Break the people up. It's probably 1,000,000 of y'all. And let them judge or govern the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they can judge. So shall it be easier for thyself. Because you're about to have a stroke dealing with these people. And they shall bear the burden with thee. If thou shalt do this thing, and God command thee so, pay attention right there, then shall thou be able to endure, and all this people shall also go to their place in peace. Did y'all see that? So now is Jethro saying, I'm giving you advice, and if God approves it, it's going to work out for your good and for peace among the people? Because he said, and God command thee so. He said, if you do this thing and God command thee so, if he says it's all right too, all right? Scripture is clearing itself, right? Now we have to remember that there were 600,000 men that left out of Egypt, and that wasn't even counting the women and children. So think about how many people Moses had to govern. Verses 24 through 27, and we're done with chapter 18. So Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he has said. And Moses chose able men out of Israel and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they judged or governed the people at all seasons or at all times. The hard causes they brought unto Moses, which is fair, but every small matter they judge themselves. The trivial things don't bring them to Moses. He got enough to deal with. And Moses let his father-in-law depart. Okay, thank you, father-in-law. And he went his way into his own land. I got to go. Thank you for the advice. God is going to lead me the rest of the way. Amen. And so this is getting good. From chapter 12 of Genesis to now, we see God forming his nation, providing for his nation, testing his nation, calling in leadership to lead his nation. We're going to cover at least 3 to 5 chapters tomorrow. So read chapters 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 5 chapters, 19 through 23. And we're going to cover 3 to 5 of those right here on a walk through the Bible with your brother Mo Edwards. Listen, send me an email, send me an inbox, send me a Facebook comment. Let me know how you're enjoying this teaching. Listen, when you know the entire Bible, you can better understand, or especially knowing the Old Testament, you can better understand the New Testament. And understanding the entire Bible or visiting it, going through it, at least getting familiar with it, it gives you a better understanding of God's word, his will, his mind. You learn the Old Testament, you better understand the New Testament, you better understand your salvation. It just makes everything's so much clearer. You'll see this story unfolds just like any other story until you get to about Esther. Then it goes into Job and different books. But this is a story that actually um, continues to progress pretty much chronologically. And you're going to see the story of God and his people. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.